China is just gaslighting the world now. Have you ever wondered, is China really crazy or is it just me? Well, there is the tales of the two wars between the US and China. One of them is over trade dispute. Basically, it goes like this. China has a dumpster full of garbage and it just wants to get rid of it. And then the US says, well, that's too much garbage, China. We can't take it all. And then China says, no, that's not garbage. That's our product. That's export. You're tripping the United States. And the other war is China drawing a bunch of dashed lines and claiming that here are my territories, hundreds of kilometers and miles away from the country. And this is also a place where 5 to 6 other countries also claim their sovereignty. We're talking about the South China Sea. And the United States has to step in. And then China's like, you're the aggressor, America. So I'll tell you about both situations today. Welcome to China Insider, I'm David Zhang. Now, it seems like the Democrats are finally around China's problematic export mode, or at least paying attention more. US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is in Beijing to tell China that it can't just dump garbage onto the rest of the world and then call it export. What Yellen refers to here is a part of China's overcapacity, which is that China made too many things, and it's not enough consumption to cover it domestically. So what it does is ship all of it outside, export it. And because so many things are made, it's sold to the rest of the world at a really cheap price. It's going to drop your domestic competition and kick out domestic businesses due to it's impossible to beat low prices. Why would people pay more for less? So it's going to destroy US job opportunities and American businesses. Yet Li Qiang, the Chinese premier, is gaslighting her and says, no, lady, you're wrong. These overcapacity that you speak of do not exist in China. It's a lie. We know that China cannot even digest things domestically because it's literally facing a consumption issue after which they exited from the pandemic. And they just won't admit to that because this is a huge disgrace. Now, China's been exporting garbage for a very long time, and it's not some made-up fairy tale. It's just that more recently it's becoming an increasingly apparent problem because the stuff they're now exporting are bigger things like cheap EVs, electric batteries, as well as solar panels. I think it's pointless to convince China to stop because they won't. But Yellen is trying anyways. Now, there's no common ground here between the US and China because what they're doing here is sending a warning before the economic war. Now, some people have been saying that, well, look, David, China has always been making cheap products for many years. We never really heard the West complain about it until now. Well, I actually agree because the West was too in love with China to say anything before then. But now, guess what happened? American manufacturing went kaboom, and now they finally realized that, oh wait, maybe it's not a good thing to buy everything from China. China's literally destroying us using this method of cheap export. So the visit from Yellen signals a temporary warmth in the Arctic-level US-China relationship, but it's a necessary one in the eyes of the Biden administration. After all, even though Trump left office, Biden continues some of the Trump-era trade war policies. So if they're ready to tack on more tariffs, they have to kind of give them a little bit of a warning. That's the civil side of things. And so, of course, because of that, the big question is whether or not the Biden administration has the audacity to actually do something about it. In my view, they should. Whether they actually do it, that's a whole different question. Now, this current export system is the CCP's lifeline to export cheap electric cars, solar panels, and batteries to the rest of the world in hoping that they could dominate the new industries and emerging technology sector where everything is made in China. So you could say that it's a repetition of what they did with cheap manufacturing products in the past, but now shifting it to the new emerging sectors. Now, of course, it's all hoping to revive its dying economy, and that's Xi Jinping's focus. Basically, what he calls the new productive force, a campaign to outcompete the United States in these new sectors. Now, if the Biden administration is serious on winning the competition, well, they would cut off this path for the CCP immediately. But the question again is, will they? So why does it really matter to us? Well, it's quite simple. If we want our mom and pop shops, small businesses, domestic jobs to survive in the next 10 to 15 or even 20 years, we're going to have to ensure that imports from China do not destroy the particular country, in this case the United States, when it comes to prices and when it comes to a industry capacity share. Now, because they will be much cheaper, people are just going to be like, why would I buy something for a much more expensive price when I can get similar sort of components and functions in a cheaper version? And so you think of places like Temu, or Shein, which offer insanely low prices when it comes to clothing and some small stuff, well, basically they have so much inventory, they can even offer a lower price than existing prices on the market. And so if this problem persists, how could any shop in rural America or even suburban areas around a city in America compete against that? And by the way, this is all while them receiving free shipping to bring it to your doors within 3 to 5 business days. With de minimis, which is a rule that says any amount less than $800 can be shipped to you without any taxes or duty from China. And so previously there was even a deal with USPS in which they can help you do that subsidized shipping from China. And so now, of course, that's been closed off, but there's still other loopholes that exists. So China comes at an approach of war when it comes to trade, but the United States has been coming at an approach of competition. And that's a huge difference. It's a disadvantage to us. So what exactly was the purpose of Yellen's trip? Well, I think Janet Yellen came to deliver a warning, like I said, but then China is using it as a chance to buy more time, to drag on. The CCP emphasized that no decoupling in the meeting with Yellen in Beijing, while the US also says the same, but I think it's clear how important there's part of the export is to China. So if the United States decides to act out its plan to increase tariffs, then China's lifeline is cut. So the CCP is desperately trying to buy more time. At the same time, there's also another war over the South China Sea. Now, this is where China gaslights once again with the so-called territorial claims over the South China Sea, the 9-dash line or 10-dash line. What they're trying to do is basically lie, and yet they claim that they're the victims. Due to the increasing aggression by China to countries like Japan, Taiwan, and the Philippines, it's now pushed these countries further and further away from China due to security concerns. And guess who they run to? They have to go to the United States. So China takes that and expresses that they're very concerned about the state in which Japan could potentially join AUKUS. So AUKUS is the alliance of Australia, the UK, and the United States in a nuclear submarine program. However, it seems to avoid a major change. The AUKUS defense minister said that they would only consider bringing Japan into Pillar 2, which is more of a focus on the advanced technology, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, undersea capabilities, and hypersonic weapons, instead of that submarine program. For now, there won't be any nuclear submarines involving Japan because it's both against Japan's constitution and it will be groundbreaking for a change in Asia. But this doesn't mean that in the future they won't be fully incorporated into the pact. Now, Japan's membership into part of this security agreement is already critical because it's beginning to reshape their national defense identity. But it's also the most concerning to China because, well, Japan's naval program and submarines are already some of the best without nuclear power, and they are the closest country to China. So more than anything, Japan's role in the AUKUS Pact is already changing the dynamic of the Asian regional alliances. In China, there's an increasing rhetoric online about a season 3. So it's a term used by gamers, which is to describe supposedly China's role in the Third World War, as opposed to the Second and the First World War, where China, in the season 1 and season 2, didn't really play much of an important role. So it's an esport competition terminology to describe the year-end, supposedly this grand finale, right? Like the Super Bowl or the NBA playoffs. And the nationalistic little pinks, they believe that in the season 3 championship, unlike the previous 2, China has a bigger role to play. It has a powerful military and it is going to dominate the direction of it. Now, one thing China lacks in the area is a real partnership. Sure, it has North Korea, but that's in the north. And that's not really helpful when it comes to Taiwan or the South China Sea. So the CCP is currently asserting aggressively into the South China Sea, in particular along the areas near the Philippines. And it's attempting to push the Filipino government away from its sovereign territory near the Second Thomas Shoal. So it's been ongoing for years that the CCP has been doing this. What they would do is use Coast Guard ships, which are much larger than the Filipino side, harass Filipino fishermen and Coast Guards. Now, a key part of China's discussion on the South China Sea is actually going to take fold. A key part of discussing China's aggression will take centerfold at this week's summit between Biden and Japanese as well as Filipino leaders. And later on, if Japan fully joins AUKUS, the Philippines siding with the United States over China's aggression, then the battle of the control over the South China Sea becomes the new flashpoint that's going to dictate the security status in Asia in the next 5 years or 6 years. And this is all because the CCP is eyeing to invade Taiwan potentially by 2027. So they're pushing the region to be more and more alert in terms of the Chinese aggression. And the CCP, of course, is the one that's changing the status quo here. By them wanting to invade Taiwan, they're forcing every country in the area to get prepared for the potential invasion. Now, at the same time, China continues to pressure countries like Vietnam to deploy something called a political wisdom to manage ties, basically threatening them to follow China or stay out of it completely. Now, this isn't any beneficial to China finding a partner in the region, so it's still going to be China versus all the other countries who are in an alliance. But it seems like they're setting their eyes on the half of the South China Sea that's closer to Vietnam, while the United States has placed its mind on the half that's near the Philippines. So what's making the tension even higher is that we're likely already seeing what a Taiwan invasion would look like. Like I said, the US, Philippines, Japan, and Australia, they're going to be banding together. In fact, they're holding joint military drills near the South China Sea. Geographically speaking, these four countries are most important when it comes to defending Taiwan against the CCP. And China doesn't really have anyone around it to do that. But again, it does have a relatively more powerful military, which requires that of 4 to 5 countries coming together to defend against. So to conclude, you're not really delusional. China is gaslighting us to believe that they're innocent, when in fact, they're really not. All right, that's it today for the episode on China Insider, talking about how China is really putting us into second-guessing ourselves, when in reality, they're the problem. And if you enjoy the content, leave a like, comment below your thoughts, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time, bye-bye.